This video is brought to you with the support of TrueFire. Learn, practice, and play with TrueFire. Hi, this is Keith Williams. Welcome to 5-Watt World, where we're interested in helping you get the most music from the least gear. Regardless of where you are in your guitar collecting journey, I'm sure you can remember your first guitar. The guitar that started you on the road as a player, and to a certain extent, would be the one that everything after would be measured against. The guitar that helped fuel your obsession for guitars, and maybe guitar collecting. But if you're new and just getting started, you might be wondering where you should begin, and what is the perfect guitar to start with. Or, if you've always been a Les Paul guy and are flirting with the idea of trying a Stratocaster, what fits the bill without breaking the bank? What guitars will not cost a bundle, encourage you to play, and could be all that you need for years to come? That's what we're hoping to do with this video, to pick out some of the definitive starter guitars to begin your guitar collecting. I'm just one guy, and I don't have a job where I handle a lot of different guitars each year, but I know people that do. So I reached out to John Cordy, Lee Anderton, and Jeff Law to help me identify what they think are the definitive guitars at this price point in each category. John handles a lot of guitars in the course of making his daily YouTube videos, and he's been doing that for over 6 years now. Lee Anderton grew up in a guitar store and now runs one of the most successful stores in the UK, but also one of the biggest YouTube channels demoing guitar gear. And finally, I turned to my personal sales rep from Sweetwater, Jeff Law. Jeff was the first employee ever at Sweetwater, back when it was still in a basement. To say he's seen it all is a bit of an understatement. So how's this going to work? We're going to be looking at attainable guitars that fall around $1,000 or less. And though used is always a smart way to go, new is a sure thing, and it rules out the possibility of inheriting someone else's problems. So these will be new guitar prices. I'm going to break it down into different categories of iconic guitars so we can look at 3 or 4 in each category. Guitars that share the same features of Telecasters, Les Pauls, Stratocasters, 335s, and acoustic guitars. In all these cases, we're going to be talking about guitars that have a level of build quality that can be a valuable part of your collection even after you might have moved on to better guitars. These might go from being your first guitar to the one that you don't worry about taking to the blues jam, and it still would hold a special place in your heart. If you're new to guitars in general, I'd recommend the short history videos that I've made with playing examples that give you the absolute classic guitar style. So let's do these in roughly chronological order, from the solid body guitars, wrapping up with an acoustic. Cool? To support what we do, grab a t-shirt, hoodie, or a 5-Watt World Barber Collaboration overdrive pedal. To become a bigger part of 5-Watt World, sign up for the Friends of 5-Watt on Patreon. There's a friend level to suit any budget. And if you're a musician who's always wanted to have your own YouTube channel, buy my YouTube Mastery for Musicians course. It's all the things I wish I knew when I started. All the links are in the description. So let's start at the beginning with Telecasters. Launched in 1950 as the Broadcaster, Fender had settled into the final name by 1951, the Telecaster. The model evolved over time, but it's fair to say that most of the best versions since have been striving to get back to the magic of the guitars built in the 50s and 60s. A Telecaster is recognizable by its single-cut slab body, 25.5-inch scale length, bolt-on neck, and its bridge and bridge pickup assembly that arguably produces its unique sound. To kick things off on Telecasters was easy, as my panel experts all cited the Fender Player 2 in the sub-$1,000 range. Jeff Law pointed out that the factory where the Mexican Fenders are built is just over the border from the US factory, and the performance and build quality is very similar to what you get from a US-built guitar. John Cordy, who likes a little bit more vintage-style neck, pointed out that the Player 2 neck is a little slimmer, so though it isn't to his personal taste, it might be just the thing for somebody starting out. Lee went on to add that he loves the Squier Classic Vibe Tellies, impossible to beat at around $500. And coming in at a price in between the Squier and the Fender Player 2 are the Larry Carlton Sire T-Series guitars. The T7 fits the bill perfectly. These are built in Indonesia like so many of the best current guitars in this price range. They've been building guitars at scale in Indonesia at the factories there and have really benefited from the input of their American partners. Sire makes up for the lack of the classic headstock shape, with upgraded features like a roasted maple neck and fingerboard with rolled edges for right-out-of-the-box comfort. Originally released in 1952, by 1957 it had evolved into the 2 humbucking model that dominates the single-cut world today. The Les Paul has a mahogany body with a carved maple cap, a 24 3/4-inch scale length, glued-in mahogany set neck, 3-way pickup selector switch, and separate volume and tone controls for each of the pickups, making up the principal tone-generating characteristics that make up a Les Paul. Everyone agreed that the definitive starter Les Paul comes from Epiphone. Jeff pointed out that he's taken a virtual tour of the Epi factory in China, and he's taken the Gibson tour in the US. He was struck by the processes that Gibson has brought to the Epiphone production overseas. They've even moved recently to a more middle-of-the-road, old-style Epiphone headstock like you'd have seen in the early 60s. John Cordy owned an Epiphone Joe Bonamassa Les Paul that was modeled after Joe's original 59, right down to the specs of the neck. So though that guitar was a limited run, they were listed at $899 at release, so I thought they were likely representative of the sub-1000 Epiphones. If your tastes run to the earlier P90 models, there is a very tasty little Epiphone Bonamassa 1955 in the current catalog with P90s for $849 in a beautiful copper iridescent finish. And here again, John points to the Sire Larry Carlton line with the L7s. Like the Sire T-style guitars, these two humbucking 24 3/4-inch scale numbers come in under their competition at around $600. They come in a number of nice finishes, including this transparent blue. And it's worth noting that the ones in stock at Sweetwater were 8 to 10 ounces lighter than the comparable Epiphones. This one weighed just 8 pounds and 3 ounces. These also come in configurations with P90s. The pointy tip on the cutaway is the only departure from the original design, but the finish and lighter weight certainly makes the Sire L7 a contender here. Lee also pointed out that there are two humbucking pickup guitars that compete well, and someone interested in a set mahogany neck might turn that direction. He pointed to the excellent PRS SE guitars, and the Gretsch Electromatic offerings as well, and the ESP LTD 256 are all great alternatives that appeal to his customers. I'd been using TrueFire for over a decade when I reached out to them to be a partner for 5 Watt World. With over 1,500 courses from 400 artists, TrueFire always has something to scratch the itch I have for learning more about guitar. To take full advantage of the variety, I've always used the All Access Pass, which lets me use everything in the TrueFire catalog. As a viewer of 5 Watt World, you get an exclusive 50% discount on the All Access Pass. Or you can use a 35% off code for any of the courses in the catalog by simply using the dedicated links at the top of the video description. I've learned so much from TrueFire that I'm confident that you can too. Sign up using the links in the description to support 5 Watt World and get some great lessons at the same time. Practice smart and play hard with TrueFire. I'd like to thank TrueFire for their support in making this video. Launched in 1954, the Stratocaster was the evolution of Fender's first solid-body electric guitar, filtered through 4 years of players' input that Leo Fender had collected since the launch of the Telecaster. A contoured double cutaway body, bolt-on maple neck, 3 single-coil pickups, 1 volume and 2 tone controls, and at the time, an entirely new tremolo system, which they promptly mislabeled vibrato, but that's another video. Cordy is clearly a Stratocaster guy, and he recently did an entire series of videos comparing each level of the Fender Strat lineup. He came out of it raving about the Player 2 guitars with the lightweight chambered ash bodies. The weights are nearly a pound less than the comparable models in Alder. Though he thought the neck was a little thin, he also thought these competed very well with many of the US-built guitars in the line. For a slightly thicker neck, you might step up to the Vintera 2. And though the release noise has died down now, all 3 of the panelists cited the PRS Silver Sky SE as an exceptional value at this price. As I've said here before, the sound and playability of the SE Silver Sky guitars are remarkable, and my only trouble with the design is the headstock. But as a first guitar, or as a Strat for a non-Strat guy like myself, these are nothing short of amazing. And here again, the Sire guitars make it into the running with their S3, 5, and 7 models. Roasted maple necks and stainless steel frets add up to a modern S-style guitar that might be fair to say that it has as much in common with a Suhr as it does a vintage Fender. These can be had in the price range just above the Squier Classic Vibe line and come with either 3 single coils or a humbucking and 2 single coil configuration. Which of course leads us to the Squier Classic Vibe Strats. Priced at about half our limit, they are better than they have any right to be for this money. Lee pointed out that he has 2 Squier CV Stratocaster style guitars that he's modded, and he likes them as well as any of his more expensive Strat style guitars. I own this very style of guitar myself in this luscious candy apple red, but limited runs of colors come out, and I do get tempted. I mean, what do they say about candy? They're small. Take two. That might apply to classic vibe Strats. It's amazing to think of it now, but by 1958 the sales numbers for Gibson Les Pauls had fallen off to the extent that the company was looking around for the next big thing. With a background in building archtop body guitars that went back into the 1930s, Gibson stirred the hollow body and newer solid body guitar ideas together to create what they called semi-solid ES335 style guitars. The dominant style is a double cutaway hollow body with a solid center block running down the middle to which the pickups and bridge are attached. A control layout shared with the Les Paul, a pair of humbucking, and a three-way switch selecting the pickups and separate volume and tone controls for each pickup round out the package. Everything that was said about Epiphone Les Pauls applies to the 335 semi-hollow guitars as well, with figured tops and finishes that make it clear to me that they aren't trying to compete with their Gibson siblings. You can have these in either a dot neck or a block neck configuration, depending on where your preferences and influences lie. A 335 is a big guitar, and the weights of these can show that. At 5'10 and 150 pounds, I've always enjoyed the smaller Gibson ES339 size guitars, and Epiphone has versions of those in the line as well. Smaller and lighter than the full-size 335, they're a cool alternative for those of us of a smaller stature. Cordy has made a number of videos on semi-hollow Sire guitars over the years, and even one comparing the Epi directly to a P90 equipped Sire. Again, the Sire line with Larry Carlton's name attached shines, and no wonder, as Larry is known as Mr. 335 for his use of his own 68 335 throughout his studio guitar days. Carlton even plays his Sire guitars live on gigs at this point. And Ibanez has been building semi-hollow guitars at a very high level since the 1970s. When jazzer John Scofield's 335 was damaged by the airline upon arriving in Japan in 1976, he simply began using a similar Ibanez model and never went back. He's now long had a signature model with Ibanez, and in the past few years it's been offered both in the Japanese Prestige line and more recently at a lower price point as well. These full-size models are about a pound lighter than the Epiphone competition at the same price. If you've followed Scofield's career for decades as I have, you'd have noted the 20th anniversary version of his signature guitar that sneaks just over the line of our $1,000 maximum in this stunning matte black finish. And finally, both Jeff and Lee mentioned how much they like the Gretsch Streamliner guitars in this category. In multiple styles, sizes, and colors, they are a very cool alternative to the traditional 335 semi-hollow guitars. A great direction to go if you're looking for that too humbucking semi-hollow sound, but in a more unique look and feel. When I started playing guitar in 1974, everyone started on acoustic. Half the times we learned to play so we could accompany ourselves and our friends singing the songs that we'd heard on the radio. So after I gathered the electric info, I doubled back and asked everybody for their input on their favorite current acoustic guitar under $1,000. Jeff immediately pointed to the lower-end Taylor 214 model guitars, saying he is floored by the remarkable sound for the price. He added that the Yamaha guitars in this price category are great value as well. Cordy too is a fan of the moderately priced Yamaha, and a Trans Acoustic was his main acoustic gigging guitar until very recently. Lee didn't hesitate to say that his favorite acoustic around $1,000 is the new Alvarez Laureate series. He said he believes that they are the best Asian-made guitars in this price range and has proven it with his own blindfold tests up against guitars that are 3 to 4 times the price. They do in fact sneak just over the $1,000 cap, but maybe in this case you'd mow lawns for an extra couple months and buy a guitar that'll carry you a little bit further. To get us back into the sub $1,000 price point, Epiphone are doing a great job with their Inspired by Gibson models. And speaking of excellent Asian-built acoustics, I need to mention the Eastman guitars at this price, and particularly the OM-shaped guitars like the E10M-Special, with a solid Sitka spruce top and solid sapele back and sides, mahogany neck, and an ebony fingerboard. It's a spec monster at $799. It's worth noting that it has a full gloss finish at that price as well. A matte finish is more common, but in an acoustic, it can be noisy if you rub your fingers across the top when you're playing it mic'd up. Again, great at this price point. All of those are what I and my panel consider the definitive starter guitars in 5 different styles. These guitars are all good enough to get you going, fill in a gap in your small guitar collection, or to carry you on for many years to come. When talking to Jeff Law, I bemoaned the fact that there seem to be fewer people playing guitar now than when I was younger. He asked me why I thought that was the case, and said that Sweetwater ships approximately 8,000 guitars every week. In the light of that statistic, there would seem to be a real need for a video like this one that can point you in the right direction of the definitive starter guitar. First, I need to thank John Cordy for all the playing examples. Follow his channel for constant updates on the state of guitars available. I need to thank Lee Anderton and Jeff Law for taking the time out of their very busy schedules to gather together and share their vast knowledge of the current guitar market. All 3 of these guys made this video definitive in itself. I want to thank everyone that stopped by the online store and grabbed some merch or a 5-Watt World Barber Electronics Collaboration overdrive. You keep the channel going. And in particular, I need to thank my friends of 5-Watt on Patreon. It's the guitar community I've always wanted. You're all 5-Watt World. I just make the videos. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that too. Thanks for hanging with me until the end. Until next time, I'm Keith Williams. Thanks for being a part of the 5-Watt World.